In this demo, we're going to tackle our main div tag, which you can see has a lot going on in it. It is scrollable. It has several different classes, several different styles that we're going to apply to our text. And then it has this line, which we already mentioned that rather than having it be a line of asterisks, we're going to make the decision to have it be a dotted line so we can achieve that using CSS. So we'll start out in the usual way by drawing a div tag. So insert panel, draw a pdiv, and I will draw the approximate location of the div tag. And as usual, I will select it. In my properties panel, rename that. I'll call this main. Alright. Included in the files that you downloaded previously, there is a text edit rich text file called sugar text. It's really just some gibberish and dates that are old dates at that, but nonetheless saves us some typing. So I'm going to copy, come back over to my div tag and make sure that I can see my cursor blinking inside of it before I go to the edit menu and paste. Okay, so you can see it completely overflowed the size of the div container, and that's fine. We're going to change that. That will be kind of the last thing that we do. I'm going to take and move this over to the right so I can have some comparison and see what I'm doing. So there's the div container itself called main. That obviously has some style attached to it now. But I need to tackle the interior. We have these dates, we have paragraphs, we have this line. When I dumped or pasted this copy inside of the div, you can see that it didn't retain any of the paragraph settings. So I'm going to take a moment and just with my return key go through, try to separate the gibberish from the real, and you'll have to take a moment and do this too, but make sure that the dates are their own paragraph. And I may not do all of these just for the interest of time, but you'll want to for a nice consistent look on your page. So there, I'll stop at that point. Alright, so you can see what happens automatically with paragraphs is that you get a double space. And as we compare and look at our sample and what we're trying to achieve, really the only space is attached to this border. So for instance, after January 1st, there is no space, and obviously we're seeing that space here. So I am going to select these dates and attach a rule to it. So one of the things we have to address in creating that rule will be font, size, color, boldness, and all of those things are visual, but remember we will also want to attach some meaning to it. Would it be better for a search engine if these dates had maybe an H tag attached to it? Say it was an H4, something with not a lot of meaning, but a little more prominent than regular text. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select these dates, go to Properties, and choose H4. So there a little bit of formatting attached to that, of course. The H tags being bold, coming in with a certain size. Okay, so I'm just highlighting Properties, H4. Okay, and that's all right. It's getting closer. We still need to address some color issues and spacing issues. So what I'm going to do is let Dreamweaver help write the rules for the interior of this div tag. And how I can do that is by selecting just a little bit of this date, moving over to my CSS Styles tab, my panel. If you can follow my mouse, where I'm headed down here to create a new CSS rule. Okay, so I want to be really specific. I've used an H4 tag here. Well, I might use an H4 tag someplace else on my page because it does assign a certain meaning to the copy. but when I use it someplace else on my page, I might not want it to be green, and I might not want it to be the size. So I'm going to be really specific. If I have an H4 tag, and that H4 tag happens to be in this div tag, which I called main, then it will get the characteristics. So how you can let Dreamweaver help you out is by going immediately to the compound selector type. And when you do that, Dreamweaver understands what you have selected, and it writes the proper rule name right into the name field for you. So I'm in the main div, H4 tag. It's exactly what I wanted. So I will click OK. Now I can make the decisions about size, color, boldness, and all of that for this particular look. So for color, I'm going to do the wonderful Dreamweaver color sampling, clicking once on the color well to release the eyedropper. And I'm just going to pick a green from the banner. I can hit apply and see those changes being made. The size looks pretty close. Maybe I will drop that down just a little bit. 14 perhaps. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we do need to adjust the space. The H tags, like a paragraph, will give you that double space. So when I come over to the box category and strip out all of the sort of default margin by putting in 0, okay, it took out some of it. It didn't take out the space above and below completely, but that is attached to this paragraph. So there's always some back and forth. There's space attached here because of the H tag, and because these are also paragraphs, there's space here. So paragraphs and H tags always give you double space. So we're going to trust that we did our part here, at least in eliminating that space. All right, well, now on to this paragraph. A lot going on here. Size is too big. Color's probably all right. We do address the spacing. But in addition, we're going to use the border feature in CSS to attach the border underneath here. So we're going to really be able to do a lot with this one particular rule. Like we did with the dates, I'm going to just select a little bit of that and let Dreamweaver help write the rule for us. So here it is selected. Moving down to my new CSS rule. And if I go to compound, and that's the key to remember, if you move immediately to compound, the name of the rule, the really specific rule, if I'm in the main div and I have a paragraph, that's what we're looking for, really specific rule to be written. Okay, well, let's go ahead and assign some properties then. Color is probably fine, but the size, definitely we need to decrease that. So I'm going to try 12. Okay, I can live with that. Box category, again, back to the margin. I'm going to begin by eliminating all of the margin, and the easiest way is to leave the check box on, same for all. Assign zeros. All right, so now you can see we've collapsed everything, and at least that's a place to start. Now we know where we can go in and build in the extra space that we need. Before we do that, though, I'm going to move over to the border category and put our border in here. So we'll attach that to this rule so that every time there's a paragraph, and every time that paragraph is in the main, so paragraph in the main, it will get this beautiful orange border. So I don't want the border to be on the top, right, bottom, left. So I can take the same for all, checkbox off. And for the bottom, I am choosing a dotted. Remember, that's the sacrifice we're making here. Dotted versus the asterisk. For the width, gosh, let's try 4. And the color, I'll release my eyedropper and I'll just choose an orange that I've already used in my file. Hit apply. Okay, that looks pretty close. I can live with that, at least for this example. So now it's back to the whole spacing issue. I need space not only below it, but I need some space below the paragraph as well. So let's go back to the box category and explore both of the things that we need to do. First of all, a border in theory goes around everything, and the space beyond the borders is called a margin. So I know I need space below this margin, below this border, to push the other dates away. So let's start there. I will try a number, maybe 15. Okay, I'm just kind of comparing this to my example over here. Now I need to build in space between the content inside of the border box and the border, and that's the padding. So inside is the padding, outside is the margin. And it's a little bit hard to get that concept when we only have one side of the border. So on the bottom of our content, I'm also going to put in 15 pixels. Okay, and I made a little bit of a mistake. It's not affecting anything, but over here in the margin, 0.15, I'll just take that 0 out, just in case it causes problems on the road. Okay, well that looks fantastic. The good thing about this is if you handed this off to a client and they continue to add more copy, you could say, well, anytime there's a date, just put an H3. Anytime there's a paragraph, they can type the paragraph in, and these styles apply automatically. So that's a really cool thing about kind of hooking the information onto the H3 as well as the paragraph. All right, well now we have this issue of, we drew the box, let me just scoot this back over. We drew the box to be a specific height, and when we dumped our copy in there, you can see it extended beyond that. So it's really easy to take care of. When I click on the edge of the border of the div tag, and I move down into properties, there's a little section here called overflow, and that's exactly what's happening. There's a lot of overflow right now, and I haven't declared how I want to deal with that overflow. So some of our choices are, do I want it visible? And that's the default. That's what I'm seeing right now. Do I want it hidden? You can see it's just cut off. Do I want it to scroll? Yes, I do. You're not going to see the scroll until, let me just hit the live view. Then we'll see our working scroll bar. So that's really, really cool. When you have a lot of information, not enough web page to put it on, people understand and look at the scroll bar and know what to do with it instinctively. Right. One other just small detail that you may want to take care of, it really didn't look that bad in the live view. It didn't feel very, very cramped, but you might, if you were working with different background colors, and in fact on the example there is a black border and there is some padding in there, that would actually be attached to the rule for our div tag holding everything. So I'm going to just remind myself that that was called main. I can come back and find my main rule. I've been creating a lot of rules, so here's my main. Double click on that. Double click on that. Been having some issues with that. And I can put a border. This time I do want the border all the way around. So a solid, I'll just go with a simple 1 pixel black border. And hit apply. Okay, there that is. And I can also come back and in the box category just throw in a little bit of padding so it creates some space in the interior, kind of pushes that away. That looks much, much better, much less cramped in there. As a reminder, when you add padding, it actually does increase the width and height of your div tag, so you might have to come back and do some adjustments. But there, that is a really nice scrolling div tag.